Are you continuing to hear this on the Hill as a potential option?
I mean, honestly, no one who I've talked to on the Hill, Democrat or Republican, is saying that default is an option. No one wants that to happen. And I think even though if you take it from the perspective of the financial markets and sort of things being prioritized, I think you even had Janet Yellen say things like Social Security checks, veterans benefits, those would be cut. And those are really the bread and butter things that Americans need and that really could impact voters. And I think that's kind of the key thing here. If you are currently an elected official, it doesn't matter if you're Kevin McCarthy or Joe Biden or Mitch McConnell, you will be hurt by being a part of a government that has gone into default. And I think that has kind of led a lot of folks on D.C. to kind of have this steady drumbeat that whatever they do, they have to avoid default. They might be dug in right now, but I think both sides really do have the same goal at the end.
Well, and they are dug in, but at least they are talking, or at the very least, the staff is talking for both congressional leaders and at the White House. So, Josh, do we have a sense of what progress those talks really are yielding? When they postponed what was supposed to be today's meeting into early next week, the message was this is a sign that there are steps forward. How real is that?
Yeah, good vibes, right? No, cancellations don't always have good vibes. I think right now, a couple of things that I would take away from that. Things seem like they're moving quickly. They didn't talk for 3 months. And then they said, we're going to come back 3 days after we hadn't talked for 3 months and talk again. And now they're saying, hold off, we're not going to do that because actually things are actually going forward. And I think people sometimes miss that nuance that we heard from Anne-Marie and from the Secretary, which is it's as soon as June 1st. We don't really know. The CBO came out today and said it probably first couple of weeks, so we'll see if that's the case. But it might not be June 1st. It could be June 2nd, could be June 5th, could be June 8th, that kind of thing. And so when it comes down to it, the way the mechanics work, that's where the prioritization question comes in, because you default on the day when you can't pay that day's obligations, and that might be Social Security Day. Now, I don't have reporting to rule this out, so I can't be categorical. The notion that Joe Biden would sit there and say, we're not going to send out Social Security checks.
While running for re-election?
I just don't see it happening at all. So I think that's why they're holding out the option of these extraordinary things. They have not ruled out the 14th Amendment. It certainly sounds like it's more in play than other things like the coin, like whatever, prioritization, to try to buy themselves a little bit of time. But things are moving. They're moving in a way that has been a bit surprising to me about how quickly they've sort of dropped some of the charade on both sides a little bit. And for Joe Biden, that has meant dropping this notion that we're not haggling over the debt ceiling. They're still sort of maintaining it, like, oh, we're not negotiating over the. Like, of course, the debt ceiling is the sort of hostage in the middle of these talks that are going on. The talks seem like they're going apace. We just don't know what it will come to, and we don't know how each caucus is going to react to it.
We heard from the press secretary today, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, about the decision to postpone the meeting till next week. Here's what she said.
This was a decision pretty much decided by all principals, and the president and the 4 congressional leaders will meet early next week. When we have a date, certainly we will share that with all of you. Staff will continue to meet. They're going to meet today and over the weekend, so that will continue. The meetings have been productive over the past few days, and leaders wanted to continue before they regrouped.
But in that same briefing, Karine Jean-Pierre also said there is no deal to be had on the debt ceiling. There is no negotiation to be had on the debt ceiling. So has anything changed, Emily?
You know what? I think some things have changed, and they're very subtle, and they're not set in stone yet, which is why you're seeing folks like Karine Jean-Pierre dig in the way that she is. But when you have these staffers meeting, you're beginning to see a little bit more of give and take. We are hearing that things like energy permitting reform is something that Democrats could potentially accept from the Republican plan. Things like clawing back unused COVID funding, that seems to be a little bit more on the table. Now, of course, there's some more things that Republicans want. I was speaking with Congressman Ben Cline today on Bloomberg Sound On, and he mentioned they are going to want to see some spending caps. They are going to want to see some work requirements. They might want to see some more of that energy bill. But this is really the give and take that we've been looking for. I've spoken with folks on Capitol Hill, a lot of them Democrats and Republicans alike, who think that what we're going to wind up having is that if Biden and McCarthy can get to a deal, you will see it brought home by a coalition of sort of more moderate centrist Republicans and some more moderate Democrats. And they will be able to move that across the line in the House, get it through the Senate, and potentially get it to Biden's desk if everything goes as people are hoping.